Hello everyone, LGA is starting a new season, so welcome back to...
Lewis tries to draft Galvin Fire and gets sniped again.
I was almost wheel picked towards the end of the draft, so when it got to me, most of the high tiers had already been picked, so I went for Garchomp. Would not have been my first choice, but I really like how much roll compression Garchomp has. He is fairly speedy and he hits like a truck, and Scale Shot gives it the potential to snowball. It would have been nice to have access to Dragon Dance, but it doesn't in Paldea Dex. But I don't think that's going to be a problem. It has a very good offensive typing and it hits very hard. 102 speed is funny because it's gonna outspeed most of the medium to high speedy Pokemon, the 100 base Pokemon. But since it has access to Scale Shot and I'm planning to support it properly, I think Garchomp can be a very good offensive asset for my team. Chi-Yu. Well, I went with an offensive physical Pokemon. Now I picked an offensive special Pokemon. By now we all know what Chi-Yu can do. It's very powerful. It can be a little frail on the physical defensive side, but it has a very nice special bulk. It is slow for this meta, sure. 100 base speed is not, I wouldn't say it's the fastest, but supported properly, like I said before with Garchomp, it can do a lot and it has a very good wall breaking potential. Now for my defensive core, I decided to be nasty and pick Glowking. Glowking is very good defensively, it's very versatile, it can generate momentum, but most of all it has probably one of the best abilities in the game in my opinion, which is Regenerator. And to go with my Glowking and compose my regen core, I went with Momola. It is a lower tier more compared to Glowking, but it also has access to regen, it also can generate momentum, and it's a very bulky Pokemon. It has access to Wish, so it can act as a cleric, and it's more versatile than people give it credit for. So, hazards was a problem. Chi-Yu doesn't like them, and I didn't want to get stuck using boots on Chi-Yu and lose 25% of its potential. So I went with Driftbloom. Driftbloom has access to Defog and Sap Sipper and Knockoff. It has some funny abilities that can turn it into a late game sweeper given the right circumstances, but I mostly picked it because of Defog, and has a ghost type, it can be a nice spin blocker. Following the same logic, I picked Komala. It's a very cheap spinner, it offers a decent amount of utility, it is immune to status and can generate momentum. So for a normal type with this amount of utility and only spending 4 points, I'm good. With my offensive core and my defensive core set, I got my removal, and there was something I really needed for Chi-Yu to work properly, even Garchomp, which was some sort of speed control, in this case in the form of webs. So I picked Ribombee. Usually I like a bulkier fairy type, but I knew that if I were to draft a low tier webs user, I would never bring them to the game. I drafted them several times and I never bring them to the game. So I went with Ribombee, which is a fairy type. So offensively it's gonna be a good typing to use, and it's very fast, and I needed the speed to condition my adversary's prep. And it has access to webs as well, which is very useful. So I figured a fast Pokemon with access to webs, a good offensive typing, would be a better choice than a low tier web user. So I went for Ribombee because of that. I know I'm gonna probably run Sash or Boots most of the time, but it's a commitment I'm willing to make so Chi-Yu and Garchomp can shine. Well, there were 3 spots left, so I decided to cover for my type weaknesses and balanced my offense and defense. So on the offensive side, I went with regular Ogerpon. Might not be as good as the other ones, but it has access to items, which makes it a little more versatile than them, I'd say. And I like that for my draft. I think I have all the tools to make pretty interesting sets and make Ogerpon an asset. On the defensive side, I went with Registeel. I really like bulky steel type, and Registeel was the right amount of points for the right amount of bulk and the right amount of utility. It can really help me with T-Wave and setting up rocks, so Garchomp doesn't have to be tied to that role, and it can even pack a punch with Stab Heavy Slam. Rotom Fan ties up my draft. It was not what I wanted to pick, but it is a Rotom, so it has a fair amount of utility, and being an electric type, it's ground immune, and that's always nice. And it was mostly for type coverage, to make my draft as balanced as possible, cover for weaknesses. It helped with the speed tiers, and that's it. I don't love Rotom Fan, I don't hate Rotom Fan, it is what it is. Whew, that's a rough start. I did my prep, I sit down to play my game for week 1, and I was about halfway through the game when I noticed I was not recording any of it. Well, I hit record and the mic was on, but for some reason my card capture was not transmitting the video, so I ended up without a video for my week 1 game. That's what happened. Well, good news is I won. It was a very weird game because I lost Chi-Yu turn 3 about to a +4 Rotom Heat that set up on me, and I let it. And then my Regen Core plus Registeel ended up wearing down all the Pokemons on the other team, which was fun. And while I used Garchomp to check Rotom and keep it from setting up and trying to do any more damage than what it had already done, in the end it came down to Rotom Hit missing an overhit and Slowking killing it and winning the game. So